Good day, students and lovers of literature. Imagine this. You are sitting comfortably in a theater. The lights slowly dim, the curtain rises. A tragic story begins to unfold before your eyes. A character suffers, another loses a loved one. You become emotionally attached. You laugh with them, cry with them, and by the end of the performance, you walk out of the theater emotionally satisfied. Now, let me ask you a question. What if a playwright didn't want you to cry? What if he didn't want you to become emotionally absorbed in the story at all? What if, in the middle of a heartbreaking scene, an actor suddenly turned toward the audience and said, "By the way, don't feel sorry for me. Instead, ask yourself why society has created this situation." Suddenly, everything changes. The illusion shatters. You are no longer lost in the story. You begin to think. You begin to question. You begin to analyze. And that is exactly what Bertolt Brecht wanted. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, epic theater is a form of didactic drama that presents a series of loosely connected scenes designed to stimulate thought rather than emotional immersion. Instead of creating one continuous illusion, epic theater often presents a sequence of separate scenes that encourage analysis. It frequently interrupts the storyline to address the audience directly with analysis, argument, or documentation.
Epic theater was developed during the 1920s by Bertolt Brecht and theater director Erwin Piscator.
It emerged as a radical reaction against the realistic and psychologically immersive theater that dominated Europe. Epic theater directly challenged the naturalistic methods associated with practitioners such as Konstantin Stanislavski. Brecht believed that theater should not encourage spectators to identify emotionally with characters. Instead, it should provoke rational self-reflection and critical thinking. For Brecht, the traditional theater experience was dangerous because it encouraged passive spectatorship. He believed that catharsis, the emotional release experienced at the end of a tragedy, made audiences feel relieved rather than motivated. Instead, Brecht wanted audiences to leave asking difficult questions. Why do some people suffer while others profit? Can society be changed? What role do I play in maintaining or changing it? For Brecht, theater was never merely entertainment. It was an instrument of social awareness. It was a tool for awakening political consciousness. For Brecht, theater was a call to action. Epic theater represents one of the most revolutionary breaks in the history of drama. Traditional theater attempts to create an illusion of reality. Epic theater deliberately destroys that illusion. Traditional theater wants audiences to forget they are sitting in a theater. Epic theater constantly reminds them. Consider the difference. Traditional theater seeks immersion and illusion. Epic theater seeks critical distance. In traditional theater, the audience becomes an emotional participant. In epic theater, the audience becomes a critical observer. Traditional drama follows a linear plot, while epic theater presents episodic and fragmented scenes. Traditional theater focuses on individual fate. Epic theater focuses on social conditions. In traditional theater, emotion is central. In epic theater, reason is central. Notice the contrast. Traditional theater asks, what happens next? Epic theater asks, why is this happening? Traditional theater asks, how do you feel? Epic theater asks, what do you think? For Brecht, theater should not merely reflect society like a mirror. It should function like a hammer. It should shape society. To understand Brecht properly, we must understand who he was fighting against. And that opponent was Aristotle. For more than 2,000 years, Western drama followed the Aristotelian model. According to Aristotle, a good tragedy should lead the audience toward catharsis. Catharsis is the purification or release of emotions such as pity and fear. Brecht completely rejected this idea. Why? Because he believed catharsis encourages passivity. Think about it. Suppose you watch a play about poverty. You cry, you feel sad, you experience powerful emotions. Then the play ends, you feel relieved, you go home. Nothing changes. The social problem remains exactly where it was. Brecht argued that emotional satisfaction often replaces social action. An audience that cries may stop thinking. An audience that thinks may start acting. This is why Brecht wanted spectators to remain analytical and objective throughout the performance. As Walter Benjamin famously observed, the audience should learn to be astonished at the circumstances. That statement captures the entire spirit of epic theater. The goal is not emotional identification. The goal is critical astonishment. Instead of asking, How do I feel about this tragedy? The audience should ask, what social, economic, and political forces produced this tragedy? Now let's talk about one of Brecht's most revolutionary ideas, the actor. Most actors today are influenced by Stanislavski's method. They try to become the character. They immerse themselves completely in the role. Brecht thought this was a mistake. He wanted actors to maintain a double awareness. At one level, the actor portrays the character. At another level, the actor demonstrates the character. Imagine a scientist presenting evidence in a courtroom. The scientist does not ask you to emotionally identify with the evidence. The scientist presents facts for analysis. Characters become social case studies. Through characters, audiences examine the social forces shaping human behavior. The audience becomes a jury. In epic theater, characters are presented not for emotional identification, but for critical examination. To achieve these goals, Brecht developed several innovative techniques. Let's explore the most important ones. The most famous Brechtian concept is Verfremdungseffekt, often translated as the alienation effect or defamiliarization effect. The purpose is simple: prevent emotional immersion and encourage critical observation. Whenever the audience begins to lose itself in the story, Brecht interrupts the experience. He reminds spectators, this is a play. You are watching a constructed reality. Think about what you are seeing. One common Brechtian technique is breaking the fourth wall. Actors speak directly to the audience. The invisible wall separating performers and spectators disappears. Another technique involves exposing theatrical mechanics. Stage lights remain visible. Scene changes happen in front of the audience. Nothing is hidden. The machinery of theater becomes part of the performance. Another important technique involves placards and projections. Scenes may begin with written announcements explaining exactly what is about to happen. This destroys suspense. Why? Because Brecht did not want audiences asking, what will happen? He wanted them asking, why does it happen? Gestus is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Brechtian theater. It is much more than a gesture. It is a physical action that reveals an entire social relationship. Think of it as a visual argument. A single movement can expose class conflict, economic inequality, or political oppression. One of the most powerful examples comes from Mother Courage and her children. Mother Courage must identify the dead body of her son. Yet if she admits he is her son, her own survival may be threatened, so she denies him. After the soldiers turn away, she releases a silent scream. That silent scream is Gestus. It reveals the terrible human cost of surviving in a system shaped by war and profit. Without saying a word, the audience understands everything. Brecht loved contradictions because real human beings are contradictory. People are rarely purely heroic or purely villainous. They are shaped by conflicting social pressures. Consider Galileo. He courageously challenges established scientific beliefs. Yet when confronted by the Inquisition, he retreats and recants. He is both brave and cowardly, both admirable and flawed. Similarly, Mother Courage deeply loves her children, yet she earns her living from the very war that destroys them. These contradictions force audiences to move beyond simple moral judgments. Instead of asking, is this person good or bad? Brecht asks, what kind of society creates these contradictions? Brecht believed that people often accept contemporary social problems because they seem normal. People often accept social problems simply because they appear normal and inevitable. To challenge this mindset, Brecht frequently set his plays in the past. This technique is known as historicization. Mother Courage and her children is set during the 30 Years' War. Life of Galileo takes place during the Renaissance. But these plays are not really about the past. They're about the present. Historical distance allows audiences to examine contemporary problems more objectively. The past becomes a mirror reflecting the present. By looking backward, we begin to see today's world more clearly. Finally, we come to one of Brecht's most fascinating techniques, music. In traditional theater, music intensifies emotion. In epic theater, music often interrupts emotion. Imagine a tragic situation unfolding on stage. Suddenly, a cheerful, upbeat song begins. The contrast feels uncomfortable. And that discomfort is intentional. Brecht uses music to break emotional identification. Songs become political commentary. Instead of reinforcing feeling, they encourage reflection.
The audience listens to the lyrics, analyzes their social meaning, and transforms music into another tool of critical thinking.
So, what is epic theater ultimately about? It is about transforming spectators into thinkers. For Brecht, theater was not a dream world where people escaped reality. It was a classroom, a laboratory, a political forum, a place where society could examine itself. Perhaps the entire philosophy of epic theater can be summarized through the words of Galileo. Thinking is one of the chief pleasures of the human race.
What a remarkable statement. For Brecht, thinking was not merely an intellectual activity. It was the first step towards social change.
And that is why epic theater remains one of the most influential dramatic movements in modern literary history. If you enjoyed this lecture, please support the channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our future literature lectures. Until next time, keep reading critically and thinking deeply. Thank you for watching.